We are live at the 92nd Street Y in New York City, where we thought we would be doing lazy days holiday shows because there'd be nothing going on in politics. We're stupid that way. Because, of course, politics is off the hook right now. It is beyond the cutting edge. It is lots of other nonsensical things that Michael Steele says that are meant to convey the word intense. Joining us now is someone who understands Washington and America's role in the world better than most, and by most I mean just about everybody. A woman who raises the median IQ of any room she walks into, and who's very kind to join us here in front of our live audience. NBC News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Andrea Mitchell, the host of Andrea Mitchell Reports. Andrea, thank you so much.
It's great to be here. This is fabulous. You do this all the time. This is totally normal. Do they follow you everywhere?
Yes.
They should.
These are all my family members. Either this nukes treaty that looks like it's going to be passed tomorrow is a miraculous political achievement by this president in this political climate, or this should have been a gimme, and the fact that it was hard at all is a diagnosis of how tough things are. How do you see it?
A little of both,
okay.
Really. I think it is a tremendous achievement from this administration, a united, very intense effort, a lot of unsung heroes here along the way, Republican and Democratic, but it should not have been this difficult.
Yeah.
There has a long tradition of bipartisanship in foreign policy, especially on treaties, especially with Russia or the former Soviet Union or whatever you want to call those guys over there. And the fact that we came this close up until the last week or so of lobbying and pushing and pressing, and Condoleezza Rice became finally the last Secretary of State to join the rest of her colleagues, Democratic and Republican. It should not have been this difficult.
And, you know, the objections from the Republicans sometimes sounded substantive and sometimes they did not. When they were proposing all these amendments, I thought, oh, they do have real concerns about the language. And then I realized what they were trying to amend was the non-legally binding preamble. It was like they were photo editors and they were fighting over the caption, and they don't get a say over that. And what made me worry about that is that they didn't have real objections. They were probably maybe even going to vote for it in the end. They just wanted to stall it as long as possible. And that's sort of okay when you're talking about light rail or you're talking about some other issue that gets debated day in, day out. But when it's a treaty, when it's a national security issue like this, that seems like uncharted territory.
Well, in fact, there are some who still have real objections. Whether they are politically motivated or real objections, they are still objecting. John Kyle is not going to vote for this treaty. Mitch McConnell is not going to vote for this treaty. They did get, Kyle persuaded the president to go along with $4 billion of additional money for modernization of nuclear weapons. Not a bad thing to do. We want them to work. You were pointing out what happens when potentially things go awry. These are very old systems. They do need modernization.
You don't need $4 billion of new red phones, but still.
You know, and it's a little suspicious that it happens to be in Tennessee, you know, at the weapons labs, and those were the senators that were holding out for more.
Right.
I mean, you do wonder about the Tea Party inspirational, you know, budget cutting when it comes to money for their own particular states. But that said, there's also some politics going on.
Yeah.
I'm not absolutely certain whether Mitch McConnell would have taken this position had John Kyle, who some say is kind of the the pretender to become the next Republican leader down the road, if Kyle had not staked out this position. We've yet to hear from John McCain as to how he will actually vote, and he did not show up for today's news conference with Kyle and Lindsey Graham. So he may still be trying to find a way to work his way back.
It's going to be fascinating to watch that vote tomorrow. Even on the previous treaties, there's always 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 senators who have some objections. To see if there will be dozens of Republicans who vote no on this, I think, and watching John McCain's vote is going to be, it's 3 days before Christmas. It's going to be this huge deal. A bigger picture question. Do you agree with the big picture that I see in Washington right now, that essentially the Democrats are going to be defending ground for the next 2 years that Republicans will be trying to take away?
Absolutely. And you quoted something that caught my attention, the Politico interview with Mitch McConnell, when he said, you know, it's going to be that much tougher. They're going to see what angst really is, whatever the actual quote was. The fact is, they are going to face much smaller margins in the Senate and a Republican House. And the continuing resolution that was passed to keep the government open past midnight tonight, which the President will be signing by midnight, which the House is now concurring in. That continuing resolution is keeping spending at current levels.
Yeah, preview of what they're going to be doing.
And there is no money in that for health reform and for financial services or anything else. So until March, none of that additional money will be plugged in, and I think they're going to have to fight for everything they want to get.
NBC News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Andrea Mitchell, the host of Andrea Mitchell Reports here on MSNBC every day at 1 p.m. Thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And now let us praise the Fox News Channel.
We called a lot of Republicans today who are in office at the moment. These are the ones who told us no. Senators Alexander, Barrasso, Cornyn, Crapo, DeMint, Enzi, Grassley, Kyle, McConnell, Sessions, Baucus, Gregg, and Inhofe. No response from Bunning, Coburn, Ensign, Graham, Hatch, and McCain. I'm not really surprised, but what is your take on why does no one wants to talk about this?
Why does no one want to talk about this? All hail Shep Smith at Fox News, and I'm not kidding. Because Fox News is an outfit that can get return calls from Republican senators most of the time, unlike some other people I know who shall remain nameless, but who are me. Because Fox News can get callbacks from Republican senators, Shep Smith making a hullabaloo on his show about the Republicans who are not supporting health care for 9/11 first responders means that those Republicans might feel compelled to explain publicly why they don't support health care for 9/11 first responders. And sure enough, even though Oklahoma Senator Tom Coburn would not respond to one particular Fox show's question about what it is he has against 9/11 first responders, Mr. Coburn was willing to explain himself to another Fox show, and it was a doozy.
This bill hadn't even been through a committee. We haven't had the debate in our committee on this bill to know if it is the best thing to do. We haven't had the testimony to know whether this is a bill that's been drawn up and forced through Congress at the end of the year.
Senator Cuddlybeard Tom Coburn of Oklahoma says the reason he is committing to block health care for 9/11 first responders is because the bill did not go through a committee, didn't have a hearing. Total bullpucky. Senator Coburn, bull, capital P, pucky. The 9/11 first responders bill did go through committee. It did have a hearing. Senator Coburn, you are on the committee that held the hearings on it. And you did not bother to show up for the hearing. Here, I present to you, is June 29th in the United States Senate, the hearing at which the 9/11 first responders bill was discussed. The hearing that Tom Coburn says did not happen, and because he says this hearing didn't happen, he says he's going to block 9/11 first responders health care. You want to see Tom Coburn's chair during the hearing on the 9/11 first responders bill? His chair during that bill is empty because Tom Coburn did not bother to show up at that hearing. We confirmed this with the committee itself this afternoon. The hearing happened. Tom Coburn did not show up. Now he says, oh, if they'd only held a hearing. If you've been wondering what the substantive argument is against funding health care for 9/11 first responders, you are not alone. Keep wondering. It is paid for. It is not on the deficit. It has been in the works in Congress for more than a year. The only reason it's being jammed right now at the end of the year is because Republicans have been delaying it all year long. It has been on the books for more than a year. It is 9/11 first freaking responders, but Republicans are still dug in against it. What does that tell us about Republican strategy, Republican leadership for this new Congress for this next 2 years? Joining us now is one of my favorite guests, Nicolle Wallace, former communications director for President George W. Bush, former senior advisor to the McCain-Palin campaign, a very nice person and author of the novel 18 Acres. Nicolle, thank you for crossing the ideological divide.
My mom was out there.
That's the big secret. Your mom secretly is. That's the deal. All right, so tell me, when you look at Tom Coburn's behavior here, that there is some rational explanation, something greater at work here that I just don't understand.
In the secret Republican strategy box?
Please tell me.
Well, there isn't. But look, the problem is bigger. Tom Coburn is someone that I think even the Obama team finds a constructive senator. And so
Senator Obama and Senator Coburn worked on a lot of things together in the Senate.
So I don't want to single him out. But the entire Senate, minus the 2 New York senators, I think has carried some of the blame here. When did 9/11 become New York's responsibility? I mean, I remember after 9/11, that was an attack, right? That was an attack on the whole country. And on September 12th and 13th and 14th, 9/11 was always something we experienced as Americans, not as New Yorkers, not as residents of Manhattan. So I'm appalled by Republicans and Democrats who don't stand next to Senators Schumer and Gillibrand and fight for the first responders, because they weren't running into the buildings to save New Yorkers. They were running in the buildings to save America.
But Republicans are filibustering. And this is a bigger question for me. That right, if it was up for an up or down vote, it would pass handily. Even if it only passed with Democratic votes, it would pass handily. And Republicans are filibustering it. And what we've seen is the filibuster of everything now. And so all of these things that pass with overwhelming numbers, even Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal, passes with 65 votes.
Right, all
huge
these
numbers.
Great bipartisan accomplishments.
But why filibuster it when it's going to get that many votes?
And I don't know.
Because passing nothing is better than passing something you agree with?
Look, why do senators do what they do? I don't know, but I think that the Obama White House ends the year with some of its most popular and powerful accomplishments being the bipartisan ones. I mean, he had a very difficult first 2 years, but he's had a triumphant last 8 weeks. And some of the power of what he's doing in these final weeks of the year is that he has bipartisan support. And I know there's a lot of consternation about the tax cuts being extended to all brackets, but the truth is that gives this president a chance for independents to take another look at him. The bipartisan support for Don't Ask, Don't Tell. You know, I'm proud of the members of my party that supported that. I think if you tried to explain how that ever became the law of the land to someone who's in college, they look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
You know, that was Clinton-era policy, but it hardly makes sense right now. And you know, we have future generations to thank for making these things easier. You know, I think we see the Congress really lagging behind the times on some of these issues, but Obama is ending the year in a much stronger position than he started it.
So, but as
despite the filibustering going on in the
and the only reason that things are happening now is because finally Democrats have some leverage against the filibuster. They're saying we won't let you go home. That's the only leverage that they've got. Now Republicans want to go home.
We know they love to go home.
We all like to go home.
Democrats like to go home.
I'm going home right now inside my head. That's the way it works. But as every Tom, Dick, and Haley starts running for president, right? Any second now.
We're not going to go there.
I spent all day working on that. You want to know why we have a staff of 5,000 that works on this show? It's because it took 4,000 of them to come up with that line. With everybody starting to run for president right now, what you just described, that President Obama's strongest accomplishments at the end here, especially in this lame duck, are one for which he got Republican votes. What's the Republican strategic calculation there? Because President Obama is the one ultimately who gets credit for the START treaty passing because it was such a priority of his. So do Republicans come under even increasing pressure to not do anything that even they might agree with if the political capital from it redounds to Mr. Obama?
I think you're going to see two Republican parties. You'll see, you know, there are senators in both parties who go there to govern. Coburn's one of them. Yeah. Lindsey Graham is one of them. And McCain hopefully will be one of them now that his presidential aspirations are behind him.
On alternate Tuesdays.
But you'll see the PAC that'll be running for president, and they'll be real focused on taking apart, repealing parts of Obamacare. I don't think that they'll be well served to do it in a general capacity. I think Republicans will be best served by being specific and technical, but not by being engaging in the theatrics and
calling it Obamacare.
Right. I think if they are specific and technical and legal, I think if Republicans build some alliances with states' attorneys, they make me nervous.
I know. That's the idea. They're on my heavies. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, yay, 92nd Street. Why? I mean, I love this place.
You think they go small bore on health care?
My God. I think the last time I was in a room this big, I walked Sarah Palin onto the stage at the Republican convention, and we know how that ended.
No wonder you're shocked.
Yeah. So, what was I saying?
You were saying how Republicans need to go small bore on health care.
Right. So the health care,